Welcome to our workshop. Sometimes when you're clamping odd shapes, it's hard to get a tight joint and make sure that glue is going to stick properly. When you've got an odd joint you can't get put together with clamps, you need something called vector clamping.
As a furniture repair business, we're opening the doors to our workshop to show you the tools and techniques to repair furniture.
What I need to do is take that apart, repair it, and put it back together so I can get this chair in working order.
We give you tips to make your repair projects easier. Let's get into the workshop and start fixing furniture.
These are two pieces of furniture I recently repaired using vector clamping, and they would have been impossible to put back together without vector clamping. Let me take you back to the basics of wood glue. For wood glue to work properly, it needs four things. You need to have clean wood surfaces, you need to have tight joints, you need to have the appropriate amount of glue, which means there's a little bit of squeeze out in that joint when you tighten up the clamps, and four, it needs pressure. If you're missing one of these, chances are your joint might fail prematurely. Vector clamping is about getting pressure in the right spot. So I'm going to show you some of the details around how to go about doing that. Let me start by explaining the force applied by a clamp. If I'm clamping these two boards together, and I've got a clamp here, the force of this clamp goes like this. This is the vector. The pressure here, once I close up these clamps, radiates out at a 45-degree angle. So from here, I've got pressure going this way and pressure going this way. So if I follow this line along here, that means I've got clamping pressure from here over to here. I don't have any clamping pressure here. Understanding this clamping pressure is 90 degrees to the joint that you're putting together is really important. So to effectively clamp joints together, the face of the clamp must be parallel to the joint. Vector clamping is a term W. Patrick Edwards uses to describe making cauls to provide effective clamping pressure on odd shapes. I'm going to show you two practical examples of that so you can fully understand it. The first one is putting together a pedestal table leg that has come off. If I try and take a clamp across here, there's nothing for that clamp to grab onto. So I've got a challenge to fix here before I can even think about putting glue on that. To clamp this properly, I need clamping pressure that's 90 degrees to this joint. So if I put up a square here, you can see what that looks like. I need a clamping pad right here to be able to put pressure this way. The first step in vector clamping is taking a piece of softwood and cutting out the profile of the piece you're looking to clamp. So we've now got a clamping pad that matches the leg. I need to take the middle point here and draw a 90-degree line on that midpoint. So that's here. So this is where my clamping pressure is going. And then I need something that is 90 degrees to that for the clamping pad. So I'm just going to eyeball it. About here. So I need to take this out. Okay, so to glue on this piece here, I put the leg in. And this is, again, just a dry fit to make sure everything works. Here's my clamping pad. And I put a notch in it for this one clamp. And really the only job of this is just to hold that clamping pad on. I've created another pad over here because this is an offset angle. I needed some pressure out here. So if I pull this up here, clamp this on, there, I've got a nice tight joint. So it's all ready for glue. The second example of vector clamping I'm going to show you is for this chair repair I'm doing. These chair joints are really loose and I need to pull them apart and glue them back together again. The challenge is I've got a curved apron here that joins the back leg at the side. there's no natural way to clamp this. So I need to create a caul so when I put this joint back together again, it's really nice and tight. To make a caul, I need to trace out the shape of the apron on some softwood. Then I look at the joint that I need to clamp and draw a 90-degree line to the surface of that joint. This is the direction I need the clamping pressure. Then I draw a 90-degree line to that, so I have a line that's parallel to the face of the joint. This is where I need to cut out a piece for the clamp to set. I also need a clamp to hold the caul to the chair apron. I use the same process. I draw a line 90 degrees to the apron, then another 90-degree line to figure out where I need to cut a space for the clamp. Cutting out the cauls is quick work using a bandsaw. If you don't have one, you can use a jigsaw. I cut out the first caul and then use that to trace the cut lines on the second piece of wood to cut out a second one for the other side of the chair. For these cauls, I also need to add wings. This allows me to clamp above and below the joint where my clamps can connect with the chair leg. By holding this in place, you can now see how I have the clamping surface on this caul that's parallel to the joint on the chair leg. This was an odd piece to clamp, but now it's easy. So these joints are nice and tight now that I've got these clamps on here. Now you can see how these vector clamps work, giving direct pressure on these joints so they come together nice and tight. These ones up here are loose right now, so once all this is set, then I'll come back and I'll glue these two. I put them in here just as a place to make sure I locate everything properly. Not only are these cauls useful for clamping the back apron joint, they're also providing a clamping surface for the front apron joint as well. This was an odd shape to clamp, but now with vector clamping, it's easy. Okay, we're good to go. I hope this gives you a good idea of how you can use vector clamping in your work. I'd like our YouTube channel to be a supportive community, so if you have tips or tricks that you like for vector clamping, please share them in the comments. If you'd like to get notified when our next videos come out, click subscribe over here and click on the bell icon. Thanks for watching Fixing Furniture.